In the last class, you got to know the main concepts of Node.js streams. Now it's time for our hands-on session. I'll use the Node.js 18. It's important that you use the same Node.js version as mine so you won't have environment problems executing the examples right here. Let's check this out in practice then. Enough talking, and let's go to the demo. Okay, now we are talking. Now it's time for Node.js streams. So I'm gonna talk about readable and writable streams. Okay, actually, I'm gonna write this a bit longer because it's a lot of concepts, right? Transform as well because it's a data type, and this is the string classic classes. Okay, because further, I'm gonna show you how to use async iterators. So I'm gonna run our examples a bit differently, but it's important for you to learn how the classic classes work, okay? First of all, we're gonna try implementing the idea that we saw in the last class, okay? There was just an experiment, but now we're gonna see in practice the problem, okay? So first example, reading files, big files in chunks. .mjs, which is ECMAScript modules, okay? From the last file, I'm gonna copy this 4 because we are doing something similar, okay? Oh, nice. So the sequence now will be from 1 to 20, okay? And then I'm gonna try doing something really crazy here. I'm gonna use repeat, and I'm gonna repeat this string like 1 and 7 zeros. It's like 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So it's 10 million, okay? 10 million times. 10 million times we're gonna have the hello world example there. Nice. If you want to remove this I think it's pointless, okay, from this time. And I'm gonna call it big file, okay? And now we're gonna have a very big file. So you should actually put this on your git ignore if you are using Git and versioning your examples. See how fast was it? But if I try seeing, we have actually just a few bytes, right? But what if I try increasing here to 200 or more? Actually, let's see the file first. Oh, the file actually is on the wrong folder. The folder should be the third. So let's go to the third. Now I'm there. Big file, it's here. Let's see what we have there. Just, it didn't execute our JavaScript code. So let's keep 20. I did some mistake here. Here. It's actually here, okay? And I will remove this file. Nice. Let's see. Now it's taking a bit longer. Nice. If I see now again, we see that our file is 2 gigabytes. 2 gigabytes. Our big file is here. On VS Code, for some reason, it's not showing anything. But if I go here on my terminal, and I cat it, I can see the whole thing there, right? 2 gigabytes of hello world, all right? Nice. That's what I was talking to you. What if we try requiring using the same file as we did in the previous example? So from here, I'm gonna import from node fs promises, okay? And I'm gonna try doing the same thing. Promises, read file, and the file name. Our file name is big file, right? File name. Big file. File name. Okay. Well, what's gonna happen? Do you think Node.js will crash or we will see some result? What do you think? Well, let's see in practice. Well, first of all, we can console.log, and I will give you a spoiler. Here we will have the buffer, all right? So the read file is gonna return our buffer. So file buffer, okay? If I try running this file, we can see that this buffer is greater than 2 gigabytes. Remember that I told you that the maximum limit that we can use in Node.js is actually 2 gigabytes. Our file, I think it's actually 2 gigabytes. So what we could do here, we could reduce, okay, and remove the big file, run it again. Now we see it's half, okay? And now if I try running it, we can see the buffer is there, okay? So we have one buffer, a big buffer, and then in this time we are allocating 1 gigabyte for this program just to read the file. So yeah, you can start noticing the problem. All right, so I'm gonna put here a try cat, okay? Because I want to process 2 gigabytes file. So console.log error max 2 gigabytes reached, and then I'll put error message. Nice. Well, we could see the file size here. The final file size will be the file by length and divided by 1 and 9 zeros, okay? Gigabytes and break line. Let's see. All right, it's 1.1 gigabytes. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Well, I will do this first. I want to process bigger and bigger files, okay? I said to you that in this course, you're gonna learn how to process terabytes of data, so I'm gonna prove it, right? Now it's gonna be at least 3 gigabytes, right? Because I'm concatenating data using this operator. So we have 3 gigabytes there. All right, what if we try again running our examples? Well, we could see the maximum 2 gigabytes reached. The file size is greater than 2 gigabytes. Ooh, crazy, isn't it? Perfect, perfect. Well, the ideal to know the size or to read files is using Node.js streams, okay? So how do we use Node.js streams? We're gonna use create read string, which is a function that helps us to read files as a string. Nice. And then I'm gonna use the stat sync. The stat is gonna bring us the size of the file and some information so we can know what we could do with this big file. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna grab this size. Oops, size from stat sync. I could have used the async with promises, but I think this is so fast that I don't think it would be worth it to import that. Okay, nice. So now we can say the file size without trying to put this whole file in memory, right? So now if we run, we can see the file size. It's crazy big. We could do actually the same counting we did here. So I'm gonna copy and paste it here. So it's 3.3 gigabytes, okay? Perfect. Well, now that we already have our file size, we could decide whether we want to read by promises or not, but honestly, I only use streams for everything because I think that it's easier, okay? So our string will be the create read string on our file name, okay? So we have two ways to grab the data here. We could use the event on or once data, okay? And I can print the message. So I'm gonna put a console.log on data length message to string, because this message is actually a buffer, right? So when we use create read string, internally Node.js is creating a big buffer. We will consume this buffer, and if it's longer than 2 gigabytes, it's gonna create other buffers so we can read from there as well. Nice, nice, nice. And I can see here the length. So the whole length is 65K. Ooh, it's crazy, isn't it? Why? Okay, let's comment it. Well, here we could see it's 60. I will copy here, right? Actually, the number is 65. According to the docs, right? It's 65. I would put 65K. I would say it's easier to understand. So we could see that it's 65K per readable, okay? Or per message in this case. So what do I say by readable? We could do differently. We could use once, or actually we could use on readable. Once it's ready to read, we're gonna grab the whole data. And actually we can read data as we want here instead of the whole 55K here. So this doesn't mean anything. So here, okay, first of all, let's print out read, and let's try, let's say 11 chunks, okay? Chunk bytes, 11 bytes. So I'm gonna use string dot read, and then I can pass how many bytes? So 11 to string. 11 is a very specific number because I want to print hello world, okay? And hello world has 11 letters, if you say so. So here, if I try running, we can see that our read got 100 bytes, and it actually ran twice, right? Ooh, it ran twice because it was ready two times to read this file. So our readable was 2 times ready to read. However, let's try putting this together and let's see what happens. Because here it's gonna read 65K, right? And yeah, let's see. So here, on the first data length, which is here, we got only 11. If I remove here and try again, you could see that data length is different. So what this means? This means that on readable, this, actually the read file, right? This command will trigger the on data event. Nice. I'm just putting because you should know what's going on behind the scenes, right? But I will show you how we do in production as well. It's good to like fill in all the gaps and then we go to the professional stuff. Perfect. Well, I want to make sure I will consume the whole data. So I will put here chunk equals 0. Chunk consumed, okay? And then here I have 11, right? Well, chunk 11. And let's try saying more 5. More 0, 5. And here 5. Okay? So here I'll put 5 as well. And for our examples, I could like comment this data from now so we can see only our data. Okay. But in this case, it's printing more than once. So I want this one to be once. Okay, so it's running once. And we got hello and hello world. Nice. Well, okay. I'll keep this one again. And let's see how many. So we got the first one, which was 11. And we have just once, right? If I let here on, I would say we're gonna be triggered 2 times. Oh, all the time. All the time we're reading. So let's keep just once. That will be triggered for the first string read. So triggered by the first string read, okay? Nice, but we should consume all the data, all the 3 gigabytes, right? So how do we do that? Well, we could actually use on readable instead of once. We won't use this variable. And now I'll call it as chunk, And this is a very common example, all right? So string.read reads max 65k bytes, right? This is what we've seen here on the data. Okay, so I will do while we can read data, we're gonna consume data, okay? So new is different than our chunk equal string.read. And then when I don't pass any value here, the string.read will try to get all the 65k bytes, okay? Nice. And with it, I will just say that I'm consuming this data with the chunk.length, okay? And after all, I could have here on end. Okay, and then I will console read chunk consumed. Same idea that we've used, bytes of data. Well, we are mixing a lot of events here, right? In production, we'll never do this, all right? But I'm showing you because it's very curious, right? We have a lot of events that we can consume data here, and this might be confusing. So the next example that I'm showing you, so you see that it's just one function that's gonna be easier than just reading events. I don't like this reading events or actually doing this kind of thing, creating a global variable and just concatenating data, okay? But let's run. Let's make sure we're gonna run the 3 gigabytes file. Ooh, see, we have exactly the 3.3 bytes of data, okay? So first of all, we read the first data when our read triggered the first time. We got only the first readable here, and we consume the data just a few bytes, okay? We just consume 16 bytes from here, and then this readable tried to get all the remaining bytes, okay? Perfect. Perfect. Now you understood how the chunks are going there, how is the relationship between buffers, and let's see now the string types that I just told you. So two string types, MJS. All right, so without losing any time, node string, we're gonna grab readable. Remember readable? Remember writable, and remember transform. Oh, you're gonna see it in practice, okay? All right, remember that I told you every time you need a data source, so data source could be file, database, website, anything you can consume on demand, okay? So let's create our readable equals readable. We could use nil or just the function. It's gonna be the same thing behind the scenes. So if it could be the same, I won't use it, okay? So I'm gonna create something that our readable function is doing here, okay? So it's creating the file, actually it's reading the file and pushing data. So on readable files, we could push data. So I'm gonna use the function read on the readable string, okay? And then let's say every time I want to consume data, let's put here like on data, console.log message to string, okay? Every time I use push, I will trigger a message, okay? So I'm gonna say maybe, hey. And then to say that my source just stopped working, and actually I fulfilled my task, I don't have anything to consume anymore, I will use no, okay? So let's try checking, what this does for us. Node 2, okay? Just hey, that's it, okay? We could have more and more data here, and Node.js here in this case will actually try and saying how many bytes we are going to consume during the time. Using Node.js streams, you can actually control how many bytes are being processed here. But let's keep this simple from now, and then we can go and advance during the course, okay? So I'm gonna process 1 million items, okay? So let's do it. Let's index equals 0, index less than 6 zeros, index plus plus. Okay, just remember, push is when we finish processing, so it's gonna be the last thing we're gonna do here. Okay, all right, so let's create an object because we use object all the time. I'm gonna create a fake ID here. Actually, we could use from node crypto, we have the random UID. It's better to create IDs. Okay, random UID, a name, so Eric, index, and then oops, it's missing the symbol. Okay, and our data will be JSON string file, our person. Okay, every time we are using streams, we use whether strings or buffers. Okay, so I'm gonna push, and every time I have a push, I will notify our data. Okay, so let's run this. Oops, pseudo. Let's try again. I is not defined. It's index. And now you can see everything's running there, and we can see a lot of messages, right? And our number going to the top. We can say like how many logs we have here, like just a matter of curiosity. Console.count data, just to see how many times it was going there. Yeah, you can see that our chunks, all right, our internal buffer, our file are processing a lot of items, all right? So it's 600,000, right? 684,000 iterations from now. So yeah, it's a lot of data. It's actually 1 million iterations at least here. Perfect. So notify that the data is empty. Okay, consumed everything. Usually, we don't create readable streams from scratch as I'm showing you right now. If you are consuming data from a website, you can use Fetch or Axios. Or if you are consuming databases, you have actually drivers to get us this readable object. But you should know how to create from scratch in case you want to create your library, right? Perfect. So as I said, we won't use events anymore because it's ugly and hard to maintain, right? I don't want to keep any global object in this case. Well, remember I told you, every time we have a source, we have to process it, and then we have an output, right? So what we could do here, we could say our pipeline, it's the funnel I actually showed you, readable. I'm gonna use pipe as redirecting water, right? And then I'm gonna say I will redirect everything to the process std out. So std in is a readable string which receives data from the user. Process.std out is a writable string which will be outputting the data. So if we do just it, we could see the result going crazy on our output, right? Nice. Processing 1 million items from here. Crazy, isn't it? What I want to do in this example, I want to get this readable string, transform our JSON object, and redirect to a file. So we have a CSV file to see something that we would see in production, right? Perfect. So the first thing we should do is parse this object that we are using here to a CSV file, right? So we're gonna use something to process. So I'm gonna use map fields. What is the process in streams to process data? Ooh, that's it. Transform streams, right? So I'm gonna use transform, and transform uses a very similar idea. We have a transform function. okay? However, this function receives the chunk, the encoding, and the callback, okay? This signature uses callback, so you never forget calling your callbacks. In case you don't remember, a callback, we always pass the error first and then the results, okay? Nice. If I try doing just it and try using pipe again, we're gonna see that as long as we are trying to read the data is available, we are parsing these fields and we are printing out. We are not accumulating anything in memory. These pipe functions are very smart functions that knows when to consume more data and so on. So let's see what this happens. Well, it didn't print anything because I didn't put any data here, right? So let's try seeing this. And then we could see that for each chunk I had there, I was just printing out some random data, okay? Nice, nice. Well, first of all, I'm gonna parse this data because I know it's a JSON file, right? A JSON object. And then I'm gonna parse it to a CSV file. So it will be data ID because I know it's an ID, right? And then we can have the data.name. But I'm gonna do something crazier. I'm gonna do it to be uppercase, all right? And then I'll put a break line because our file needs to break a line. And then I'm gonna have the result from here. If I try running this simple code, we can see our CSV is already there. See, just a few lines of code, we are just processing a lot of data on demand as we want to. Nice. Well, the file is there, but remember, a CSV file wants the first line to have the headers, right? So we should write there ID, name, and put all values right below, actually. So here we can create another transform. Remember, transforms are for processing data. Headers will be more one transform, and we could have as much as we want to because we are processing data on demand. So as long as we have available data, we can process it. You might have thinking right now, what if you want to use promises? What if we want to use other data types? Wait, we're gonna go there. But right now, let's just focus on this simple example and then we go advancing even more, okay? Well, what I could do here that I would say it's not actually a good practice is creating a property, okay? So if I don't have any data in this counter, I will just create it and fill it with 0, okay? So if our counter is different than 0, I will say that I already have the data I want to. So I will just say no and chunk, okay? Otherwise, the first time I ran on this function, I will actually write the headers, which will be ID, name, and break line, and then I have to concat with the chunk I have, right? Concat with the chunk I already have. Well, what's gonna happen now? Well, I could use pipe again and map headers, okay? Nice. See that the order here makes difference, right? Because first of all, I'm parsing the JSON and creating the CSV format. And then I'm mapping the headers. And then as long as I have data available, I'm printing out to the output. So let's run again. Well, we have ID and the whole thing. I think this is not right. I think the ID should be just in the first file. I think it's missing here some logic. So let's just say that it's gonna increase a value. If I run again, we could see that all the files are here, but it's too fast, right? 95 or 80,000. So let's redirect this data to our file. The final process to redirect our data is a writable stream, remember? So now we can use our writable stream. So here I'm gonna just say writable is always the output. Okay? Print something, save, ignore, send email, send to other string, and so on. Okay? Perfect. Well, we saw that we could use on our last example the create read string to read data. Well, in the Node.js string, we have the create write also. So actually we have to import it. Import from Node.fs create write. Okay? So create write is I'm gonna wait for data. As long as I'm receiving data, I'm just appending data to this file. Okay? So I'm gonna pipe and I will say, well, I will create my .csv file. Okay? Perfect. Well, what we could do here, we could actually wait for the event end on pipeline and say when this event was triggered, I can say task finished. Okay? Well, I think here, maybe this code is a bit broken. Oh, nice. So now we should see a CSV file with 1,000,000 items at least. So let's run and check this out. See how fast was it? It was really fast, right? But let's check it out. Let's go to our CSV file. Well, the first line we have the ID and the name, and the last we have 1,000,001 items, right? Why 1,000,001? Because we put an additional header file, okay? But see, it was just a matter of seconds or milliseconds depending on your machine. So streams are very powerful and we could use whenever size you want, okay? Petabytes, terabytes, it doesn't matter. As long as we're reading data on demand, you are just sending through and sending to the next steps, you can process it and then release the process. And that's what I was talking to you. The only thing here that we know that's a buffer, it's because we are using toString, right? We don't need in this time to handle it, to fill Node.js do it by itself behind the scenes. The only thing we should know here is actually the data coming in and coming out, okay? I will show more examples. There are a lot of good practices to refactor this code, but for now, you're ready to start implementing your Node.js streams. I'd say if you fully understood this class, you are able to see Node.js streams from real projects and guess what they are doing. There are other concepts I'll walk you through in the course that will empower the way you code JavaScript. Just so you know, in the next class, you're gonna create a complete chat application using only the Node.js native modules and streams. You'll figure out soon why I say that Node.js streams are the most powerful feature in the runtime. I hope you like this class. I'm Eric Uendo, and I'll see you in the next video.